Tere tulemast, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us for an interesting day of discussion around renewables and hydrogen infrastructure. We're kicking off today with Anneli Akkerman, who is the chair of the Hydrogen Technology and Renewables Energy Support Group, who will lead us in, and then we'll start the day.
So, good morning. So, nice to see you in Estonia and in our Parliament House. So, you are most welcome. Renewable energy, and especially wind energy and hydrogen technology, I think those are two fields of business which walk hand in hand. I'm speaking especially of business because my background is business, and I've been working in everyday life as an entrepreneur for 14 years before coming to politics. At the end, we can do a lot of things, and we can facilitate kind of industries in parliament and in local communities. But at the end, businesses and enterprises are those who are making business, who are making goods and services, who are paying taxes, and made it all shine and develop. What concerns about hydrogen technology and renewable energy, this is that it cannot be done small. It cannot be even started small enterprise. I mean, it has to be started as big. And that needs a lot of cooperation to get things and businesses started big and to get affordable price. Cooperation not only between companies, not only between local governments and companies, not only between local governments, companies, and parliament, but also much wider sense. It needs competition between all the states around Baltic Sea, and even those are all cooperation between Nordic countries and Baltic countries to Central Europe, because there are three different issues. One is the price of wind energy is more affordable if we have grids. And one Estonian professor had said that in the future we will see low price energy if we have expensive and modern grids. I'm very happy that a lot of those people who are making such kind of decisions, our grids to be built, are gathered together here. And also hydrogen, which is one technology or one subject which can be used to carry energy from windmills, from wind to the lights, to the cars, to every other place where the last consumers can use it. And the third important point is industry, how we can add value to this wind we catch, hydrogen, and how we can build up big industries to produce goods. And for the state, as a facilitator to the businesses, the most important thing state should do is facilitate and permitting, so that companies can do the work what they are made to do. So thank you for gathering, and I wish you fruitful and interesting discussions and a lot of new contacts and a lot of new ideas and cooperation. Thank you.
Next, we have Marek Alliksoo introducing Hydrogen Valley Estonia.
Thank you, Anneli Arkeman of the Estonian Parliament, for leading us in with "It cannot be done small." This perfect wording, and thank you to the Hydrogen Cluster for the invitation. I'm Marek, board member of the Estonian Hydrogen Association, and here to give you a brief overview of the valley. So, it is not there to do it small, as Anneli also said. It's a public-private initiative there to drive the Estonian hydrogen economy. And it's probably the largest undertaking since we digitalized the nation back in the 90s. It is the world's first certified hydrogen valley as well as a nationwide initiative, because again, it cannot be done small. And it's coordinated by the Estonian Hydrogen Association, which started its endeavors already in 2016 as the national hydrogen body, and has been growing since from feasibility, science, awareness, and now escalating to the economical development of the hydrogen economy. And of course, 2023, we finalized also our legal agreement with the consortium members, with the steering bodies, which are the largest, most innovative, and most critical stakeholders here in Estonia for setting the boundaries there. And we, of course, have a support group already of over 30 other stakeholders, making sure it can all be completed. With our good cooperation partners from the Netherlands, of course, we learned from the best to try to become better. We've set the working plan and strategy to escalate the learning curve and learn how to use hydrogen in very large quantities when the offshore wind kicks in. And of course, this is a very familiar map of the 5, let's say, localized, centralized hubs, the hotspots where the development will reach outwards to start covering up other actors in Estonia. And of course, the structure for such a large undertaking. We have a steering management board, the logos you saw earlier. We work tightly with all the ministries to make it happen. The support group and the working groups are there to solve those issues throughout the value chain that can pop up. The Secretariat is there to provide all the support. Those hubs are being led as well individually. And of course, there's a lot of projects. We've mapped over 30 plus in various forms, and they can be either in single hubs or crossed throughout multiple hubs, or even nationwide. And these are some, well, it's a non-exhaustive list. We've tried placing them in various stages and areas, from feasibility, education, and R&D up to deployment. And of course, one of our newest members here and later on the stage, also Metrosert, placed you there on the education and R&D, but of course, it's much more cross-cutting than that. As well as Estonia's actual first cross-border initiative, which is H2 Value, going from Estonia southwards. And of course, today we're very excited to hear more about Baltic Sea hydrogen as well, to see where the infrastructure developments and other cross-border initiatives will take us. And of course, recovery resilience funds and all of those other ones, some of which can't be shown here yet. But again, our job is to de-risk the entire economic development of Estonia, support each other, provide a roof, and actually make Estonia much bigger than it is when looking from Germany, for example. So that was a very brief overview from my side. Questions probably later, or do we have time for now?
We've got time for a few questions now.
Perfect. Well, the first speakers never get questions usually, so it's good. Excellent. So I'm perfectly in time.
Very head There'll be a chance to ask questions of the panel after we do the presentations. But next up, we have Sven talking about Baltic Sea H2 and the importance of value chains. But firstly, there's a quick Menti on the board, which Sven will introduce.
Yes, so it's a great pleasure to welcome you all. Today's event, which I'm hoping is just the first one in the series where we talk about Baltic Sea H2, Hydrogen Valley, what it is about, what are its results, and also talk about the important topics in the Baltic Sea region when we're talking about setting up hydrogen economy, as the Baltic Sea H2 covers the whole Baltic Sea region. And to kick us off today, I would like to invite you, and we would like to invite you to either take your smartphone and punch in the menti.com and then the code, which you have there, 5580-7530, or use this QR code with your camera and go to the link to Menti, and then write a few words how you feel about what type of results hydrogen economy will provide us, and what can we solve with the hydrogen economy. And then when we go from event to event over the years, hopefully we can show and understand how also our understanding of the hydrogen economy has changed. So please take some time. This will be also up during the break, and then later in the second part of the day, we will try to make some conclusions out of this. Sorry, I'm hoping everybody got the chance, but this will be up also later. And thanks to those who already have given us a reply. So as Stephen already mentioned, we will mainly talk about Baltic Sea H2 issues today, and perhaps we are not going to be able to talk so much about the results yet because we're just 1 year in, but we will talk about two main topics that are relevant for the Baltic Sea H2 project, but also for the region in a wider sense. So those are renewable energy production, of course, because there will be no green hydrogen without renewable energy, and secondly, about the infrastructure. How can we use this green hydrogen that we're producing in the Baltic Sea area? So Baltic Sea H2 main aim is to develop a significant hydrogen valley spanning the whole Baltic Sea region. And it is divided into the main valley, which is focusing to southern Finland and Estonia. And the overall aim of this valley is to revolutionize the energy landscape, foster self-sufficiency, and minimize carbon emissions in various industries. And in addition to Finland and Estonia, there's a range of partners that are involved, including Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and also northern Germany. And we're striving to build an integrated interregional economy on an unprecedented scale in Europe. And to do that, we have received also funding from European Union. The overall project, or the overall funding for the project is 33 million, 25 million of which comes from EU. But this funding does not include those infrastructure and pilot projects that are also brought in the project. So this funding goes just to work on the integration aspects that are required to set up this large-scale Baltic Sea hydrogen economy. And here's a map of the partnership. So as you would see, main partners come from Finland and from Estonia, as this is the region for the main valley, but there are also 7 connected valleys in Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Germany, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark as well. And there are 2 underlying concepts how the partners are brought in, or sort of 2 binding factors. And one of them is that Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Germany are all on the path of the European hydrogen backbone, Corridor D. And these partners, and the additional partners in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark are also brought in through maritime solutions. So Baltic Sea region is a maritime region, and all the partners have interest, or all the regions have interest for the maritime solutions and for using hydrogen in the maritime environment. The reasoning for building a cross-border valley between Finland and Estonia comes from the fact that we already have a gas connection between the 2 countries. We have electricity connection. We also have human connection, meaning that people shuffle between those 2 countries regularly. So why not discuss the building of a hydrogen connection between those 2 countries? And when we're talking about this hydrogen connection, we also have to talk about in what industries the hydrogen is used or will be used. And these include transportation, so both land and maritime, chemical industry, and energy industry. And as already proposed, we have 7 connected valleys, some of them via the pipeline, or will be hopefully soon connected via the pipeline, and all of the participating valleys are interested in the maritime solutions, and through that we are supporting development of the Baltic Sea region hydrogen economy. So Estonian Hydrogen Cluster has been talking about value chains for years now, and it's the approach that we're very fond of, and we're very glad that it's a similar approach that Baltic Sea H2 Hydrogen Valley is taking. So you can see that in this occasion, the hydrogen value chain has been divided into 5+1 pillars or segments. And under each pillar, under each segment, there's a list of companies. I hope it's also visible to the back of the room, which companies are involved in developing a specific part of the value chain. Of course, we have renewable energy production, and this is extremely necessary as green hydrogen goes hand in hand with the surplus of green energy. Then there's hydrogen production, hydrogen infrastructure and transmission, fuel cell demos, and also hydrogen utilization. But on top of that, we have additional pillar or like an umbrella view because those pillars cannot, in a way, exist on their own. So we need a dynamic market model, we need digitalization, we need modeling and digital twins. And that's the additional layer that goes sort of next to those 5 basic value chain pillars. So when we're talking about focused approach for 5 years, 40 partners, 9 countries, we need very clear division of work, very clear governance structure. And for that, we have divided this approach to 8 work packages with clear tasks, clear deliverables. Work package 1 deals with project management and coordination of the partners, and work package 8 deals with communication, dissemination, exploitation. And this, what we're doing today here, is also part of the work package 8, that we talk about what's happening in the valley, we present the results, and we invite stakeholders to discussions. Then hydrogen marketplace was already briefly discussed. This is the work package 6, where we support the development of the local marketplaces, but also the cross-border marketplace. Impact creation and replication is necessary to bring the knowledge, the best practices, the results from the main valley to the connected valleys, and try to support them as much as possible. We also have to deal with social acceptance and stakeholder engagement. And then we have 2 work packages which are focusing on demo cases. So there's the production, storage, and transmission work package, and also the offtake work package, which contain altogether 9 demo cases that will be developed. And then work package 5 is to maximize the sector integration, to make sure that those use cases, those pilots, those sectors don't just stand alone, but there starts to be a wider integration of those approaches, and then through that develop an integrated marketplace and integrated hydrogen economy for Baltic Sea region. More specifically, the use cases and industries which are involved are refining industry, petrochemical industry, fertilizer industry is interested as they need green hydrogen to produce green fertilizers or renewable hydrogen to produce green fertilizers. There's also energy industry, transport, including maritime, and chemical industry as well. And again, we get back to the value chains, so we're going step by step. So currently, we are working on and more or less finished with the renewable energy understanding. We have mapped the general understanding what type of or how much renewable electricity will be available in the Baltic Sea area and how much of that could be possibly used for hydrogen production. And then we move on along the value chain, discussing electrolysis, storage, and also the offtake to build those value chains for the support of hydrogen economy. And end of last year, by the end of last year, we have gathered over 1,100 renewable energy projects, which are in various stages of development and hopefully will come to live rather soon. approximately 330 gigawatts of total additional renewable electricity will be, production will be built in the region. And what it actually shows is that the region has huge potential to become one of the powerhouses when we're talking about energy production, and we can think about what we can do with that energy going forward. But I'm not going to go into details here because we have several developers following us, hopefully, who can tap into that in more details. So if you want to learn more about what we're doing as we go along, then follow us in Twitter, follow us in LinkedIn. There's also a webpage where we upload information every once in a while. Use this QR code to subscribe to Baltic Sea Region newsletter if that seems interesting for you. I will give just 10 seconds more for people to load that QR code, because I see people doing it. 5 seconds more. Okay, it seems that most got it. And also, if you want to be in touch with us, Estonian Hydrogen Cluster, to understand where we're going and what we're doing, then add us in LinkedIn. And if you want to get our monthly newsletter where we discuss topics of relevance for Europe and globally for hydrogen economy, then reach out either to me or Steven, and we can add you to that list as well. So I'm very thankful for your attention, and I don't know if we have time for 1 or 2 questions, if there are any. So if there are no questions now, then I'll be available for the whole day. Steven is also here, then just come talk to us during the coffee break or after the event. So thank you.
First of all, thank you to Anneli, thank you to Marek, thank you to Sven. We're now ready to start the first session of the day, which is discussing how much renewable energy will be produced and how much is needed. And during this, we've got 4 excellent presentations. Firstly, from Utilitas Wind, we have Rene Tammist. Then from Ignitis, we have Dovydas Šabūnas. And from Eesti Energia, we have Kaarel Kuusk, all talking about their renewable energy development and Power-to-X plans. And then we have Joonas Vänto from Invest in Estonia, talking about their investment pipeline and energy-intensive industries. And once we've heard all of those presentations, we've got a 35-minute panel discussion, which is moderated by Sven and includes all of the presenters, as well as Priit Ilomets from Metrosat. So to kick things off, please welcome to the stage Rene Tammist from Utilitas.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for the organizers for having me here. So I will briefly touch upon what is Utilitas and also briefly give an overview of our projects in 3 Baltic states, and then maybe reflect upon where we are with renewable energy capacities in Europe and in Estonia specifically. So Utilitas is more known as a district heating company in Estonia. That's our legacy business. We operate also several CHP plants, heat storage, and so on. But since more than 4 years ago, we've been also developing wind, solar, and storage solutions. Currently, we have quite a pipeline of projects in all 3 Baltic states. In Lithuania, we hope to kickstart a construction of quite large onshore wind park quite soon. In Latvia, we have a wide range of projects, and also there we consider ourselves to be market leaders. And in Estonia, we also are planning projects in 15 different municipalities. On the operational side, we currently operate 4 wind parks in Estonia and Latvia. Offshore, so we are one of the 3 leading developers. Currently, we are developing a site nearby Kihnu Island called Saare-Liivi Offshore Wind Park. And we are just about to complete our environmental impact assessments there and start putting together environmental impact report. After that, we can start with permitting, and by 2026, we hope to have received all the permits. And on the positive side also, Estonian government has decided to start with the process of CFD scheme, and currently they are about to apply for state aid permission from the European Commission, and this would hopefully facilitate the investment decision also for at least one of the offshore wind parks in Estonia. On the Power-to-X side, we are also one of the first movers. By the end of the year, we hope to complete the first pilot project in Tallinn, with a production facility of 130 tons per year. And also in cooperation with Alexela, we hope to set up 2 hydrogen stations, and in order to complete the value chain, then we are also in a partnership with Bolt, purchasing 30 vehicles to be operated as taxis in Tallinn. On top of that, we are of course considering hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives opportunities on a wider scale in connection to our onshore and offshore developments, and we see lots of potential there. Now, as I was requested to focus more on the renewable capacity side, then of course the question is what is the target when it comes to hydrogen in Europe. So on the one side we have Repower EU targets with very ambitious 10 million tons of domestic production by 2030 and 10 million tons of imported hydrogen. At the same time, when we look at sort of the binding regulations on the renewables directive, then these targets are somewhat lower, but I'm sure that you know that as well. So of course the question is which framework is to be followed, what are the measures in order to realize the targets. Repower EU is in that sense more timely because it also considers the huge changes that are taking place in Europe vis-a-vis war in Ukraine. Europe has cut its dependency from Russian energy sources. So we have phased out the coal imports entirely, reduced oil imports by 90%, and also cut 2/3 of natural gas imports. And this is to be decreased even further. So that means that actually we need replacement, we need very timely action in order to realize our indigenous energy sources. When it comes to wind energy, at least, we are not quite there. Hopefully the pace will pick up more towards the end of the decade. But at the moment, in order to realize the targets, we would need at least 33 gigawatts of new onshore and offshore wind in Europe, but currently we are only delivering half of it. When it comes to Estonia, then the question, of course, is what is the target? In last months, we have had lots of discussions. What is the potential in the near and medium term when it comes to electrifying our heating and transportation? So we are one of the leading heat producers in Estonia, and Estonia is together with the Baltic states and Nordic countries relying heavily on district heating. So as a leading district heating provider, we are the ones also who are driving the change here and in Tallinn, at least. In the next couple of years, we are installing large-scale heat pumps, and so the change is actually happening already. So we estimate that there's a potential in next 6 years of 5 terawatt-hours electrification in heat and transport. And now the question, of course, is what is the appetite in the industrial domain for additional electricity consumption. And there, of course, Joonas will tell you a bit more. If you look at industrial electricity consumption, there are huge differences between the Baltic states and the Nordic countries. So there's on one side very good potential to increase that, but on the other, the situation currently is that there are not so many large electricity consumers, industrial electricity consumers in the Baltic states. This is somewhat a headache for the renewable electricity developers, because if we are looking for the partners with whom to develop our assets, so the off-takers for power purchasing agreements, then there are very limited number of those in the Baltic states. So we are very hopeful that this will change in the future, and the Baltic states will be able to also develop indigenous industries in order to partner also with renewable developers. Now, looking a bit in more detail into what's happening in the next years in Baltic Nordic countries, we see that many of the countries are very bullish when it comes to their plans and the potential in especially in industrial consumption. There was a recent KPMG study that I'm also referring to in the next slide, but in Estonia, of course, it's a matter of discussion. So what is the actual number we are tapping into? In Lithuania, we see almost doubling the electricity consumption, also in Latvia in next 10 years, and a rapid increase in the Nordic countries as well. And we constantly hear that there's new projects being planned in various Nordic countries, and so we are quite hopeful that these will start to realize as well. Nordic electricity consumption has been in last several decades around 400 terawatt hours. So seeing now actually by various advisors the prognosis for the electricity consumption for the 2035-40 increasing 200, 300 terawatt hours is a very big change. And it's not only words. One consultant has assessed that already 25% of these plans have been covered with final investment decisions. And many of those, of course, are in Power-to-X domain. Now I'm getting to my last two slides. This is a slide just recently presented by the Ministry of Climate, how they see the development of renewable energy capacities here in Estonia. And of course, this is provided that everything will be going smoothly. That means that all the authorities cooperate, developers can actually realize the projects, and of course very big help is the recent decision by the government to mitigate investment risks of developers by introducing 4 terawatt hours CFD scheme for onshore and 4 terawatt hours for offshore. So 2030 number already should include the outcomes from the CFD tender, so which would supposedly add 1,400 megawatts on top of the last 2 recent tenders, which should add further 700 megawatts. And we also know that the plan that the government has includes offshore for 2033. That's the latest, but of course it's possible to realize it earlier if the developer that wants that CFD tender is able to do so. And to sum up, what we actually need in order to realize these plans is first, of course, speed of planning and permitting, and that's not only for the renewables, but also for the industrial developers. I think that's at the moment the most critical here in Estonia, as we still have problems coordinating the developments between various authorities, also making sure that really civil servants understand the concerns and the need to speed up the developments. So I think that's the most critical at the moment, where we need to catch up also with our neighbors like Latvia and Lithuania. Accelerating grid expansion, so there's already a welcomed news from the Ministry of Climate side that Estonia will introduce fixed payment-based grid connection and start developing the grid proactively. So that's, I think, a very important change because grid has been so far one of the obstacles in order to realize the projects. Of course, electrification and really in dialogue with stakeholders the government should proactively also foresee increased take-up of electrification in both heat and transportation. So we are doing, as Utilitas, our investments due to our own investment plans, our own ESG plans, but that is not the case throughout the market. So encouragement there is definitely needed. investment certainty and regulatory framework in order to mitigate the risks. I think that's important, and there we are moving forward, and it's really appreciated. And then finally, industrial policy. There's a limited experience in all three Baltic states with actually using various policy measures in order to encourage industrial investment. I think that there's a learning that we need to do vis-à-vis to our Nordic and Western European partners. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rene. I think that was a really good overview of renewables in Estonia and in the wider context of Europe as well. I'm going to ask Dovydas Šabūnas to join on the stage now to introduce Ignitis and talk about their renewable energy and Power-to-X plans. As Rene talked more about renewables development, Dovydas will be focusing more on the Power-to-X side, and he's a real expert in the field. So please welcome onto the stage, Dovydas.
We're a bit ahead of time, so we've got 15 minutes. You can go over. Okay. So hi everyone, my name is Dovydas Šabūnas. I'm a P2X team lead in Ignitis Renewables, and today I would like to introduce renewable energy development and P2X plans in Lithuania. So first, let's start about Ignitis Renewables. So Ignitis Renewables is a company part of the Ignitis Group, which is the main energy utility company in Lithuania, but we as Ignitis Renewables currently growing rapidly due to the massive energy expansion of Lithuania and currently operating in all the Baltic states and the Poland. Therefore, we see us and identify us as international company, and we have around 200 colleagues to support us within the company, and there are also talents from across Europe. And we as a company have a green generation goal, is basically to deliver around 4 to 5 gigs of installed green and flexible capacities by the year 2030. Therefore, we focus more on the offshore and the offshore development, but we definitely know that if we would like these projects to be feasible or these projects to be happening in the future, we definitely need some kind of energy storage solution in the form of a BESS or, in our cases, Power-to-X facilities. So therefore, Ignitis Renewables currently trying to delve into possibilities of P2X and what it takes to develop P2X capacities in Lithuania. So there are a few enabling drivers what has led us to talk about the P2X itself. So first, of course, is the RED III directive and the industry decarbonization that is following, pushing further the other flexibility, the renewable energy demand and the renewable energy development. And in the light of the RED III directive, Lithuanian Ministry of Energy in the end of March released first draft of a national energy independence strategy. And according to the strategy, Lithuanian Ministry also approved first Lithuanian hydrogen guideline development plan by the year 2030. So basically, Lithuania has two main base documents that currently defines the need of renewable energy, the need of flexibility, and enables P2X as a tool to drive this energy transition forward. So if you're talking about the numbers, so the strategy and the guidelines are highly correlating. So for the 2030, we have to have around 8.6 gigawatt of total installed renewable energy generation and around 1.3 gigawatt of electrolysis should account for the flexibility need in the grid. And this amount correlates to around 130 kilotons of green hydrogen per year in Lithuania. And this hydrogen should be mainly used to decarbonize our own industries. So basically we have two of them that mainly needs decarbonizing. Is the petrochemical industry and the fertilizer industry here. So around 70 to 80% of this hydrogen should be used to make a first steps of decarbonizing those industries. And if we are pushing forward, we are looking at the end of decarbonization when we reach the goal of zero emissions. So that means that we have to install around 19 gigawatts of renewable energy capacities, and then the flexibility need for the grid that accounts up to 8 to 5 gigawatts for the electrolysis capacity. That amounts to the roughly 730 kilotons of green hydrogen per year. So we have a drastic energy consumption increase due to electrolysis capacities on its own. So this hydrogen, according to the strategy, should be used to finally decarbonize those petrochemical and fertilizer industries and to reach carbon neutrality. So let's talk more a bit about the year 2050, because in the National Energy Document draft, there is a statement that the energy hub could be developed in Lithuania, near Lithuania, because it has a great potential to enable Klaipėda port to export those additional hydrogen derivatives, or to use the major hydrogen transmission infrastructure that has been planned for years now into the Baltic Sea. And of course, there is a huge potential that the petrochemical industry is quite near the western part of Lithuania. So this is a great place to develop these kind of projects. So these are basically the plans. And personally, I think that Lithuania cannot develop this type of project alone. It definitely will need some partnerships, some agreements, additional interconnections, subsidies, you name it, talents, engineering from all over the Europe, and basically the Baltics and their opinion and their help in this type of goals is mandatory to have as regional development. So let's jump back now to the more recent date, to the year 2030. And at this date, we have to have at least 1.3 gigawatt of electrolysis running in Lithuania. So what Ignitis has a great site in order to do that. To develop P2X projects, you basically need three major things: great grid connectivity, a supply of water, because it's the basic costs and it's the basic need for electrolysis, and then you need an off-taker. So basically Ignitis owns an old gas-powered power plant which could be decommissioned in the future if we are talking so far into the future. So this gas power plant is mainly in the center of Lithuania and has a grid capacity that can be used for at least 1 gigawatt of electrolysis installed in there. It has a water intake capabilities, because there was a turbines that been used to cool from the with water from the lake. So basically, all the infrastructure can be used to have that electrolysis there. Also, the site is in the center of Lithuania, and it used to be the highest electricity production capacities in the old times. And it has a big major gas pipe running through it. So if we are talking about the hydrogen onshore part running through Lithuania, it's definitely going to run to the center of Lithuania and will be nearby to this asset. If also this asset is great as well because it has additional land that could be used for at least 1 gig of P2X type of projects. The site also is relatively close to one of the off-takers. The potential off-takers, the fertilizer industry, is approximately 50 kilometers from that. So this site is hard to find in order for us to develop. This type of site is hard to find for us to be able to develop P2X type of projects. Yeah, and if we are talking then about the site, we have some optionalities there what we can produce. So basically, P2X is hydrogen-based project. Hydrogen is the basis, but the rest, where you do it, do you put it directly to the off-taker, or you use some kind of other infrastructure, is still quite of a question. But since the site is near the off-taker, ammonia possibility becomes valid. Also, Ignitis owns a few waste-to-energy plants and biggest biofuel burning plants, so we have a constant load of biogenic CO2 available for us. So that means that this site enables as an optionality to develop or to look into opportunities to produce the methanol or synthetic methane as well. Yeah, so main takeaways and what do we need for these projects to happen in the future. So electricity price consists of basically 70 to 80% of all the final prices of the P2X product, hydrogen and its derivatives. So it's very important the methods and the schemes how the electricity could be achieved and could be supplied to the P2X facility. Therefore, the electricity price and its acquisition methods, it's a key enabler for these type of projects. Also, since we have a vision and the goals that industry should be decarbonized, but there are no clear binding agreements with the off-takers currently valid. So we definitely think that binding agreements with the off-takers and technology providers are mandatory to make these projects happen. And if we are talking about the gray hydrogen price and the green hydrogen price, since the competitiveness between gray and green hydrogen consists of additional fees for the carbon on the gray hydrogen. That means the heavy fossil fuel taxation from the gray hydrogen point of perspective, or the subsidy needs for the green hydrogen perspective will be the main drivers in the future for P2X development. And Lithuania now has a P2X vision that is agreeable at the national level. But if we want to talk about the energy hub and energy hub development to utilize the Baltic Sea wind potential, this vision could be agreed or should be agreed at the region level as well. So that would be my presentation about what we are doing in Lithuania. If you want to talk, to have a chat or have some questions, please find me on LinkedIn. We can connect. And everyone have a nice conference. Okay.
Thank you for that, Dovydas. And next, we have Eesti Energia and Kaarel Kuusk talking about their renewable energy and Power-to-X plans, and they've got some very ambitious and interesting plans that we'd all love to hear. So, Kaarel.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, I'm not talking about Eesti Energia renewable energy plans today. I talk about our plans regarding hydrogen. So hopefully this is also okay for you. I will go through those corporate. My name is Kaarel Kuusk. I'm head of partner relations in Eesti Energia, and my main topics in Eesti Energia: first, R&D activities; second, our strategic partnerships; and last but not least, hydrogen topics. So those corporate slides I will go through quickly. I can only say here that those icons down there, these are the business segments we have, and hydrogen is part of these. Is part of those everywhere actually. You can see our home markets here, where our production units are located. Which production units do we have? And Eesti Energia nowadays is not only an electricity seller and producer. We have different kind of services. Always feel free to ask from us. On this picture, actually see that picture was taken 20 years ago. It's the generator of Eesti power plant in Narva, which was reconstructed in 2004. You might be thinking why I'm showing this picture here, but actually there is a connection with hydrogen on this picture. Because actually Eesti Energia has been using hydrogen for more than 50 years and producing it as well, and we are the largest producer and consumer in Estonia. This is easy because there are not too much hydrogen producers in Estonia. I think Tartu Ülikool is the other one at the moment. But yeah, hydrogen is used to cool down the generator actually. So, and you see also the amount of hydrogen we produced last year. It's more than 2 tons per year. And we have our own electrolyzers in Eesti power plant and Balti power plant. And yeah, we already know a little bit about hydrogen. Now focusing more on the industrial scale and what are the plans for the future. These plants here are actually the largest pyrolysis plants in the world. If Chinese don't have some secret plants somewhere, then these are the largest ones. The first one is from 1980. The second one was commissioned about 10 years ago, the NF 280. And the most famous oil plant, or we say pyrolysis plant in Estonia, is this NF 280 plus, which is currently under construction and will be commissioned later this year. Current production of oil you can see here. It's roughly 500,000 tons per year. And when the third one is ready, then it's more than 700,000 tons per year. You again might be thinking why this guy is talking about oil at the moment here in this hydrogen conference, but actually there is a point why I'm doing this. That's a complicated picture here, but I try to guide you through. Those 3 plants are here at the moment, and everything else what you see here, this is not existing yet. But there is a plan. This plant here, that's the new refinery, what we are currently designing. We are doing front-end engineering and design for the refinery. And the refinery, we need to upgrade our current oil. The current oil is basically maritime fuel. But when we purify it, get rid of some impurities, then this oil could be easily used in the chemical industry as a feedstock. Now comes also the connection with hydrogen, because to get rid of those impurities that oil shale oil has, we need quite a lot of hydrogen. This refinery is meant only for the lighter fraction of oil. When we simplify, then the oil has a lighter fraction and heavier fraction. First refinery will be only for the lighter fraction, which is about 15% of the total oil. For this refinery, we need annually about 5,000 tons of hydrogen. And this as mentioned, we're already designing it. We plan to make the investment decision in 2026 for the refinery, and that will be up and running in 2030. So by 2030, we need 5,000 tons of hydrogen. And when we want to upgrade our heavier oil fraction as well, then the amount of hydrogen needed is more than 4 times higher. So you can calculate on your fingers. That's 2030, and for the lighter fraction. Heavier fraction will come as well a little bit later. Now the problem is here that those pyrolysis plants, they emit CO2 as well. One plant emits about 400,000 tons of CO2 per year, quite a huge number. But CO2 can be also taken as a feedstock for the chemical industry or maritime industry. When we add hydrogen to CO2, we can make, for example, methanol out of it. I know the molecule picture is wrong here, so sorry, the chemist here, this is not right, but hopefully you can understand the idea. And the amounts of hydrogen needed to produce methanol from CO2, these are huge. Just to give you a clue, then to convert 100,000 tons of CO2 to methanol, you need 60,000 tons of hydrogen. So that's an enormous amount. Here we see that the perspective is a little bit longer, maybe 2035 plus. Then maybe these amounts will be somehow available, and also the technology will be cheaper by that time, because the technology is already there. That's not the question. We can capture the CO2. This we know. The methanol production, we know how to produce this. There are technologies available. But the question is where to get this hydrogen with a competitive price. And the infrastructure also for hydrogen. These amounts require infrastructure. Maybe a couple of words more about this loop here. At the moment, our fuel or feedstock is pretty much 100% oil shale. Actually, we are already using end-of-life tires in our pyrolysis process. We import these from Sweden. We can import up to 30,000 tons per year of end-of-life tires. We want to do the same now with waste plastics, actually, because there's a huge problem globally with waste plastics. And we know, because we have done the lab tests and bench scale tests with waste plastics, we know that our technology works with plastics as well. So later this year, we want to do the industrial tests in those big units, also with waste plastics. Start using plastics as well as the feedstock for oil production, and oil later on we can convert to chemical industry feedstock. And this way actually we can close the loop, because when the plastic, I don't know, kind of package or something cannot be reused anymore, then one way to recycle it is to do the chemical recycling. And pyrolysis actually is chemical recycling. So we can this way close the loop here, produce a new feedstock for a chemical company, and the plastic converters can produce new products, plastic products. So that's our evil plan we have. And also we actually did some tests with the biomass earlier this year. Biomass, the tests were successful. So the biomass also can be used in pyrolysis. So we can basically say that our customers here they can buy also bio-based products if it's biomass-based pyrolysis oil or so recycled products when it's plastics, for example. Okay. Another hydrogen-related project that we have currently is the hydrogen-ready power plant. At the moment, as we know, Estonia is decommissioning old oil shale-based power plants and adding renewables into the power system. We know that that renewables are intermittent, so we still need dispatchable power to the system to work. So one idea what we're currently analyzing is to commission a power plant that can also use hydrogen. The main fuel, of course, will be natural gas at the beginning because there is not so much hydrogen available, because we want to commission it already earlier than 2030. So there will not be that much hydrogen ready to, and also technology question, because currently the technology providers can provide you technology that can use up to 30% of input fuel can be hydrogen. 2030 plus, it can be converted up to 100% of hydrogen. Yeah, firstly we want to do the first one, and why not then add some other ones as well to the power system in Estonia. Those amounts, as I mentioned, of hydrogen that we need to do those projects that I showed here and described a little bit, these are industrial projects. These projects need infrastructure, so we have given our input to Estonian transmission system operator that when they are planning those pipelines, to please take into consideration our plans as well, and understand that in Estonia the main consumer will be here in Ida-Virumaa. So this pipeline, wherever it starts or goes, but it also has to be connected with Ida-Virumaa. That's crucial. In Ida-Virumaa we have one company which you probably have never heard about. It's called Enefit Solutions. It's quite a huge company, 900 employees there working. And they're also now, as the oil shale industry is a little bit declining, looking for new business opportunities. As they have very good skills in electromechanical topics and also repairing different electrical skills, then they're also looking into hydrogen technologies to start assembling, for example, electrolyzers and the fuel cells. Also, why not to install them and maintenance, because those electrolyzers that we currently have in Eesti and Balti power plant, Enefit Solutions is actually the company who is doing the maintenance for these electrolyzers. So they already know a little bit. As the Lithuanian colleague introduced the opportunity to come to Lithuania and do some projects, please come to Estonia as well. We have also the similar utilities available. Recently we also signed the agreement with Elcogen, Estonian fuel cell producer. They will have a new factory close to our Iru power plant, but there are more plots available, so feel free to contact us. Here's one demo project that we will commission later this year. So it's like a whole chain. We will have solar PV producing renewable energy. We will produce hydrogen on the site. We store it, and then with fuel cell system, we produce heat and power out of this. So it's a good chance later this year for potential customers to come and have a look, maybe even touch something, and see that this kind of systems also can work and are, I hope, also viable in future. And also, of course, that's the demo project, but we will do later on similar projects on a larger scale as well, like this, because the need for renewable energy is there, and we would like to pilot also similar projects on a larger scale. So maybe some local governments and municipalities who are interested, then we would like to pilot also fuel cell-based systems on a large scale. Happy to talk on this topic later. And here's the story I gave to you on one slide. So you can see time frame and also the hydrogen amounts here, what we are currently doing. So that's our plan regarding hydrogen. That's the last slide, actually. If you have any questions, I think I have still a couple of minutes.
We'll do the questions in the panel.
Okay.
And thank you, Kaarel. And we will discuss Kaarel's point about hydrogen infrastructure in much more detail after the break. And now, please welcome to the stage from Invest in Estonia, Joonas Vänto, who will be talking about the investment pipeline and the energy-intensive industries looking to come to Estonia. Joonas, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, and good day, everyone. I'll just set my timer as well, because I tend to speak a little bit more than needed usually. Yes, hello from my side as well. My name is Joonas Vänto. I'm the head of Estonian Investment Agency, or Invest Estonia, as it's called. It's the organization belongs under the roof of Enterprise Estonia, or EIS, like in Estonian. I was asked to speak about our investment pipeline and then what are the projects actually in it. But I will reach that part as well. I think it's needed to point out that of course all of those projects and the renewables we're talking about today, and then the hydrogen as well, we need to speak about it and discuss it for our society as well and for the citizens, because they need to understand it, why are actually these kinds of projects taking place. So the vision for our organization is quite simple as well, because these people need to understand why are actually new foreign investments and new foreign projects coming into Estonia. It's because of the vision to actually promote and build the better economy for Estonians, because after that and because of that the incomes of the citizens grow, and actually the well-being improves for our people. So for that we attract foreign direct investments into Estonia. We have done it for actually 30 years already. Of course, the organization has been in different places and different organizations, but now we're under the roof of Enterprise Estonia. Actually, 16th of May, there will be the birthday of our organization for 30th. So celebrations will come and look back how actually foreign direct investments has come to Estonia and has helped Estonian economy grow much faster than possible. But what's the next Estonia or the next economy for Estonia? Of course, the green energy and hydrogen in it is the enabler of the new industries, of the new technologies coming into Estonia and building the next, and I hope, more fast-paced economy for Estonians. We have like mapped out one of the ideas or one possible direction to actually improve the Estonian economy as well. Estonia could be the test bed or innovation importer, and Estonia could be the validator of that technology, because Estonia is really small, and the workforce here is small as well, so we need to use it really correctly to actually have the possibility to get the most added value out of our people, and also out of our energy, which is possible in Estonia. So Estonia could be the route to market country for new technologies, and of course it needs to fly out of Estonia and scale up in the whole global world. But as we see, Estonians are really smart, and in all of the indexes it comes out. It's one of our pros, or one of our strengths. Now going back to the energy side, actually Estonia is doing really well compared to our competitors. How we actually use that energy. So if we take the GDP from this side and then how much of megawatt hours for that GDP is needed, we are quite in a good spot. But if we take Denmark, who's using mostly renewable energy, and what actually are they doing with that energy, then we see that we need to actually move more up and then on the right side of that scale. Okay, came back. So I'm really glad that Estonia now has a plan, a direct and certain plan for the renewables, because I think that, for example, Power2X would have not came out with their news if the government didn't say that yes, in the future we will have up to 10 terawatt hours of renewable energy in Estonia for 2030, or maybe a little bit later as well. But as I will probably reach quite soon for the investment pipeline as well, then we need to have the discussion that maybe we need it more, and then maybe we need it a little bit quicker. So if we, of course, as an investment promotion agency, we all the time need to compare and then benchmark us with other countries and other investment promotion agencies as well. So this is, of course, those numbers change a little bit, and then Utilitas already came out with a little bit different numbers as well. But one like topic or message could be read out of it. Are we ambitious enough to have a certain amount of energy for our productions? Because and I'm really glad that we have that 10 terawatt hours. But if we it's this egg and chicken situation all the time. But we tend to see from our pipeline that the chicken is already there. Maybe we need the eggs, or vice versa as well. So right now, Estonia is using about 8 to 9 terawatt hours of electricity a year. And as it already was discussed here today as well, that Estonia doesn't have the energy-intensive industries right now in Estonia. But as we compare, of course, and we like to compare, and we like to be in the same boat with Nordic countries, Finland or Sweden, they're using 2 to 3 times more per capita the energy than Estonians. So if we want to build or make our economy grow faster, we can't use the input of people or workforce, and we can't change the situation or the ecosystem for that quickly. But as the discussions for the energy sector is being discussed really much right now, then we have the opportunity to actually change that for our next decades. I always like to say that the green energy, we can't get enough of green energy. If there's green energy, as we said, as the government came out with the plans for the renewables, the Power to X came out quite quickly, and then I truly hope that everything will go fine during the years that this plan will come to life. But in the next slides, I will show you that the need or the actual interest towards Estonia to bring their projects here is really big. Yeah, I already talked about that, about the valorization of the workforce versus the energy. So I think it's quite logical and quite easy to work with the energy valorization even more right now, because we always need to have not only the energy intensive industries, but the highest value energy intensive industries. And that's of course not talking only about the hydrogen production, but also the derivatives, what will come after it as well, so that the added value will stay in Estonia. So this is our the most recent sales funnel or top 20 projects. Usually we work through around 500 projects per year, and of course most of them will not come to life, but it's the usual or normal game for the FDI environment or sector. But as you can see, the capex numbers or millions come from 15 to 1.5 billion, and we see a trend of even the more and more bigger projects coming into our pipeline and then being interested in Estonia. And of course, the most interesting and then the most popular sectors right now are energy sectors. And of course, the other one is defense, which is right now quite logical as well. But if we take the numbers all together, then the potential of investments right now with those top 20 projects are almost 6 billion. Estonia is doing quite fine, and it's an unpopular statement to say, because in our media we always fear about investments going into Latvia or Lithuania. But FGI, there are a lot of FGI projects going around Europe or the whole world, and there is a certain profile of projects which needed to be chosen from Estonian side. We can't win all of them, and then there's plenty for everyone, but we need to find out the most added value projects which actually suit Estonian economy. So from that 6 billion, probably all of them will not succeed or come to life, but at the same time, some of them will. And of course, we see from our successes from year to year that around 1,000 new workplaces will come because of those investments. So we need to understand that there's a lack of employees in Estonia, and of course Estonia needs to look from that angle as well, how we actually could build or larger the pool of employees. But I think these people in the room are quite interested in another number here, which is that all of those projects altogether, the need for energy is 12 terawatt hours. As I said, of course, not all of them will come to life, but theoretically, if they do, what are we going to do then? So that's why I said and probably continue to say that do Estonia have enough energy or green energy for our futures? And next year there will be another pipeline, another 500 projects, and then probably another top 20. So we need to filter out what projects actually needs to be in Estonia. As I started with the impact for Estonian economy, and then also now I would like to show the numbers of the impact for the governmental budget as well. These are about half a year ago done socio-economical impact study, and there were 12 companies here. And the investment size were about 1.4 billion. The outcome of it is that with the building, the first couple of years, and also the first year of manufacturing, the impact for our GDP is plus 4%, and around over 200 million will come to the state budget. So the impact with those FTI projects is huge, and then of course from the longer run, all of our citizens will feel the impact as well. I already spoke about that as well, but just a visualization how actually our pipeline is built. Of course, we're doing quite much to find the leads and find the interested parties who could land their investments in Estonia, and how we can actually win the competition of long lists and short lists of our competitor countries. Half of them usually will come projects, so actually there will be studies if those projects will fit, and then is Estonia suitable for those projects. And usually 30 to 40 projects will come to life, and then they will come out and say that yes, Estonia is the right country for our investments. Year by year, the percentage or success rate is the same. So how we can actually build the investment numbers is to find bigger projects and also find more leads, which also not only our own team could do it, but also all of the entrepreneurs, all of the politicians, the embassies of Estonia, etc., could pitch in and then help in that game. As my clock already ran out, so I will try to be brief. I think it's a really good environment right now to actually land investments into Estonia, but also to improve the unique selling points of Estonia, and then the criteria to actually win over our competitors. Because of course, as we heard from the media, and then probably our colleagues from other countries in Lithuania and then Latvia and Poland and Finland as well, they're doing really much as well to actually improve the value proposition of the country. But what's the perfect storm to land FTI? That's from our strategy as well. I think Estonia needs to attract foreign direct investments through value chains, and to prioritize the sectors. Where is the highest value, and how actually the mapping out of that value chain could be done. I think the best show here is the value chain of rare earths. So the Silmet group, new performance materials. So how that value chain could be mapped out, because after that the foundation for electrification for the automobile industry or the wind sector, wind energy sector, all of those sectors need those magnets. And Estonia has the competition edge over the whole Europe. Green energy is the most important ingredients in attracting FDI. All of our new projects coming onto the table ask how much of green energy you have, you will have, and where does it come from. And of course, NIMBY, or I hope in the near future, YIMBY, or yes in my backyard, thinking in Estonia will grow. And yes, we need to use the momentum. Probably you will get the slides later as well, but I'm not gonna waste no more time and get the panel already running. So thank you very much from my side.
So we will now set up for the panel. Do we have microphones for the panel? Maybe we have to chase those microphones. So give us a couple of minutes for us to set up for the panel. That will include the four presenters. It will be moderated by Sven, and Priit Ilomets from Metrosert will join us for the panel as well. Saali taga posti otsas. Okay. So we're just starting in 1 minute. Yeah. If the panelists would like to gather. Kus Joonas on?
Kuidas sa tahad? Ma vaatan.
Selle kohe, seda te peate jagama siin. There will be a chance for drinks and snacks after the panel, so if you'd like to take your seats so the panelists can start, please, that would be great.
All right. So sorry for this small technical interference, and really glad to have you back in here to carry on with the panel discussion. So we tried to tap into those topics already presented by the speakers a little bit more, and Priit will also have a chance to give his insights to this topic. But firstly, something that was already touched upon, and something that I think requires further discussion, is that are we being ambitious enough when we're talking about renewable developments? And this can be opened up in from different viewpoints, from national, from regional, from European standpoint, from market development, from directives. So I would give a word to each panelist to briefly say how they see this, and perhaps we would start with Rene, with you.
Yes, a very good question, actually. All three Baltic states have a very good potential for renewable energy, especially for onshore solar, but also for offshore. And then Estonia has a really massive potential for offshore. Even by European standards. So although a small country, we possess 10% of the Baltic Sea coastline. So there is actually a good potential. The question is how to tap it, and whether there is a demand for this electricity. Because of course developing new capacities is costly. In its financing, risk mitigations, and of course we are ready. There are several projects already on the way in Estonia, and also developments in Latvia and Lithuania. In Latvia, more specifically, Elwind, so parts of the joint transnational project between Estonia and Latvia, and in Lithuania, Ignitis develops offshore project. So definitely there is potential, but of course the question is to what extent we have demand, and we know that EU rules stemming from the delegated acts are very clear. So we need to have indigenous production of renewables. There's an additionality question. The question is to what extent there is a demand. At the moment, in the Baltic states, in Estonia, the demand is very limited, but hopefully this will change, as Joonas presented his pipeline. We know that there's ambition, but at the moment there's very limited offtake. And that's not only the case in the Baltic states. When talking in various EU member states with market participants, with government representatives, we see also that there are many pilot projects, but very limited actual offtake agreements. I know this is being addressed, and work is being done in order to address it. but we are still not there. That we don't see massive take-up, massive offtake agreements being presented, announced on a regular basis.
Thank you, Rene. Can we carry on with Kaarel? How do you see this? So potentially presenting the offtake part.
Maybe general comment previously that I think the question is not about ambition. The ambition is very high, but the question is about how to put this ambition into real actions. When we talk about renewable electricity in Estonia, then we see that now we are building new wind farms, but yeah, for several years now we have been net importer for electricity, so we have been slow, that's clear. And when we talk about hydrogen, then when we read reports, then we see that the ambition is very high, maybe even too high sometimes, but again, then when we see what are the real actions, which projects are really secured, then these there are not so many of these. Quite a few of projects that are already secured. What was the question to me? Can you repeat?
So, are we being ambitious enough in the region? So it's the same question in the sense that if you look at the national developments, for example, what are our plans in Estonia? If you look at the Baltic Sea Region development, Baltic states developments, what's happening in Finland, you look at the directives that are sort of driving the market pull perhaps. So how do you see, is Estonia or how do you see, are we being ambitious enough? So are we moving in the right speed now?
I would again talk more about Eesti Energia perspective, because our ambition is very high, as you saw from my presentation. And this is the question, like where to get this hydrogen, the clean hydrogen. I mean, this is currently when we compare the hydrogen prices for low carbon produced hydrogen and conventional hydrogen, the gap is huge between those prices there. So in our base scenario, we are going to use fossil-based hydrogen, but we're all, of course, willing to use clean hydrogen if it could be available with competitive prices and amounts.
So it's the price level currently that you see as the main issue holding us back?
That's one of the main issues, definitely. When you want to do business, then it has to be competitive.
Right. So Joonas, when you see those companies coming to Estonia, and today the pipeline is really big. So what is their feedback? So is the region, does it stand out as an ambitious region? How do you see the role of Estonia when you talk to those companies coming into here?
Estonia shows out to the whole world really well. Usually, if we go out and then speak about Estonia, then businesses listen, and then Estonia usually is a popular topic, a popular country to actually speak about. With our digitalization and the ease of doing business and then that really smart workforce, etc. If we speak about energy now, then usually the angle of the thinking from those businesses that it will come, because of course there are connections with other countries as well. If we are a net importer, and then probably we will be net importer in the future as well, because I think that our energy need grows faster than our renewable plans. If we say that if we have like 8.5 terawatt hours of usage of electricity in a year, and we need to cover it 100% with renewables, then there's only room for 1.5 terawatts. Rail Baltic, for example, is 0.4 already. One big chemistry industry plant, for example, is usually a half terawatt or something like that. Power to X around the same amount. So if we count those projects, then we understand that actually these terawatts will be filled out quite quickly. If we see from our pipeline, we see that the potential for those projects is quite huge as well. We're not having the overview of Estonian capital projects or Estonian owned companies projects for those developments and those industries. So I think there is high potential. There are a lot of projects in the pipeline and a lot of interest towards Estonia. The trend is that more and more power-to-X projects are coming in, which are really electricity intensive. So yeah, we will see how it goes, but I think that I'll stand to that point that there will be never not enough green energy for our next decades.
Thank you. Going to Lithuania, Dovydas, so Ignitis is standing out very strongly in the Baltic states and Lithuania. So how do you see this? What is the ambition of the region and Lithuania as well?
So if you're talking about the ambition is there. But ambition, I guess, comes from few main things, because in Lithuania, and I definitely think that other colleagues would agree, in the Baltic states, we see energy a bit different than other countries sees it. Since we had quite of independence from other parties operating in the market, energy independence for our region is the key here. So that's why the ambition is high. The next thing is how we can deliver these objectives. So if you're talking about renewable energy generation development, it's there. The main tasks are being done. But if we will see in the future the energy market fluctuations, which will determine that the prices are low in the market and the development of renewable energy will eventually slow down, we need to take actions, not ambitions, but certain actions in the P2X department of the story. That would enable us not only to be ambitious, but to ensure the continuity of this green energy transition and to ensure on how we are going to achieve as a region the hydrogen economy itself.
So when you look at from Lithuania's perspective, you would say that the underlying force or the base for these ideas is energy security. So this is what sort of drives the understanding in Lithuania. It's not a market pull, it's not something else, but...
There are also a market pull of this, but the main defining factors are the national security of energy, definitely. And all around it comes these new markets and new opportunities for us as a country or as a region to become this hydrogen value chain developers.
Thank you. So moving on to Priit, so Metrosat will also introduce their activities later today, but as a quick intro, perhaps you can give us some insight. How do you see the hydrogen economy developments, and starting from the renewable parts? So what Dovydas also said, that we need more to understand what kind of role Power-to-X plays in this value chain and how to integrate it to the hydrogen value chain. So where do you position and how do you see your role in these value chains?
Thank you. I'll first comment on the energy security part, that I think the rules of the game have changed quite significantly. If before was only price was relevant mostly, then now the energy security part is extremely much more, plus decarbonization, plus averting a climate catastrophe. And even corporations, like from last week, there's news from Microsoft who acquired 10.5 gigawatts of renewable energy for themselves. It cost about $14 billion. And the point was to get their 2030 goals of green, but also there's such a race in this AI field at the moment. So these technological advances and geopolitical shifts have really like opened up a completely new arena. And if we don't act fast, I think, and together with Baltics, then it's pretty hard to it's easy to fall behind, I would say, quickly. But MetroCert is like a missing link in the innovation ecosystem. I would say that Estonia is one of the few countries who so far hasn't had a state-owned institution that's technically called a research technical organization. It's like in Finland you have VTT, or in Sweden you have RISE, or Germany Fraunhofer. And there are these 5 strategic directions there: biorefineries, autonomous vehicles, health data, drone technologies, and then hydrogen technologies. And I can't be more happy to see the whole field, like how many great companies we have, how much potential there is in the field of electrochemistry, and how much work has already been done on basically all levels of regulation. But our role then is to basically support on these, like, let's say, testing capacities, like help the entrepreneurs bridge this gap, bridge like a valley of death, let's say, getting these inventions from academia to the industry. And it's a very long and winding road to get there, and with many pitfalls. So we want to assist, we want to be like a bridge in between academia, enterprises, like SMEs, industry, and the state. So I think that's our sort of main role there, and I see already many, in the short time that we've been active, we already see many cooperation possibilities and upcoming projects. And actually today we have an opening event, and 20 minutes from here, starting at 2:30. So anyone who wants to join and listen in on all the fields, what they're doing, who the partners are, and so on, is very welcome to join. And you can contact me and I'll give you further details.
Thank you, Priit. Let's turn to the audience. Do we have any questions at this stage to any of the panelists? Please put your hand up if you do, and I would come to you with a mic. If not, then we will carry on with the discussion here. And as a next point, I would ask that now there have been a range of financial instruments supporting setting up the hydrogen economy, and some in Estonia, some in Europe. The Hydrogen Bank results just came out. So do you see that it is still sort of support-based approach now? So do we need a lot of support, and going forward, looking forward down the value chain for ammonia, for methanol, should there be other types of support measures at this stage? So I see that Kaarel already wants to chip in, so please.
Yeah, actually we were the only one from Estonia who participated in this last hydrogen auction. Our bid was not successful, unfortunately, but when we looked at those results, then these looked quite ridiculous, because how much or how less subsidy they ask. This is like, I don't understand how this game works out, because the off-taker has to pay so much more, willing to pay so much more for the clean hydrogen, then because there's a still huge gap with production cost, and because when we checked the results, then our bid actually, the price how we wanted to produce hydrogen was quite competitive. But this question about offtake is we cannot in Estonia. I don't see how it's possible. Maybe it's easier in Lithuania, where you already have hydrogen consuming industry, refinery, and ammonia plant. But the subsidies are still needed. Yeah. We see this because in our models, when we model, then there is a huge gap between conventional hydrogen and renewable hydrogen, and actually I would say OPEX subsidies are also needed, not only CAPEX.
Thank you, Kaarel. So Dovydas, how is it in Lithuania? So is everything nice and dandy already, or you need some support as well?
Yeah, if it would be nice and tidy, so those projects would have been started to build by now. Yeah, a few comments from my side. So we definitely know that the capex subsidy is needed, but for these projects to be valid. But what Hydrogen Bank offered a feed-in tariff, basically. So that means that they are subsidizing the capex and the opex itself. So a combination of two, by how the electrolysis works, is definitely needed, but the amount of it, yeah, it should be a little bit higher than those bids were. And also, we are currently only talking about the capex and the opex, and usually when we are discussing the electricity prices, we are discussing the market prices of electricity in the future. But we have to take into account that there are a lot of grid fees that are needed when you connect your electrolysis into the grid, and these can take up to half of your electricity price that you feed into the electrolysis itself. So there needs to be some kind of flexible or balancing mechanism defined at the national energy operator level, which could help to remove those taxes by enabling these type of facilities to supply a flexible mechanisms or other services like that. So this is about the need only for the capexes, opexes, and other financial things, but also there is a huge amount of permitting needed because these P2X type of projects are basically chemical industry. So if you do not have any water, let's say, we definitely need to know where you can build it, how much water you can take, because it's the main build of hydrogen, and also how the safety zones and etc. should be allowed there. So yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I was actually wanting to Utilitas comments as well, as you've been quite successful with environmental investment center projects. So what is your feel?
70% of, roughly 70% of hydrogen price is price of electricity. So in order to compete on a price level with fossil-based hydrogen, then the question is how to get electricity price down. Even with the direct connection between the Power-to-X plant and the renewable energy plant, there's still a gap between the levelized cost of electricity and the power price that the Power-to-X plant is expecting. So there is an inherent issue here. So an option is to devise the consumption of Power-to-X plant at times when there's a potential curtailment or the capture price of electricity producer is near to what Power-to-X plant is expecting. But then the question is how do you actually service your loans? So there is an issue. Currently, I don't see other alternatives than try to subsidize, and that by doing that, try to bring down the price overall. Or alternatively, renewable or green hydrogen has to be, and its derivatives has to be traded with premium. So that's how the business plans can actually work. So in regard to our projects in relation to environmental investment center, indeed we've done our calculations. We have a very good knowledge base inside our company, and we are about to just complete the project later this year, and we are very happy about that because also we can develop a rather unique plant because important part of the inefficiency of hydrogen production is of course excess heat, which we can use in our district heating network. So I think that's something that will improve our economics. And in the future, of course, we have a very good biogenic carbon potential from our CHP plants, which we can tap into in partnership with methanol producers, for instance. I think this business overall needs a certain time to mature, to bring down the cost. So I think that's what needs to be happening in near future.
Thank you, Rene. That makes sense. Last chance for the audience. We have one hand up, so I'm gonna run there with a mic.
Thank you. Priit Ilomets, my name. I have one question. What are your expectations about grid fees prices? Because this new logic expects us also to connect different green energy power plants, windmills, solar parks to productions. And today you mentioned also this direct line, but no, it will be much better. We can connect all over the country different green energy plants to our productions, but today the fee level is very considerable, yes, when we look at this energy price. And do you expect, in Estonian case, Elering fees and also our local grids, Eesti Elektrilevi and EKG fees to come down? Actually, we have 3 gentlemen in the center who should be very interested in lowering the grid prices.
Indeed, the regulation is quite strict in regard to what can be done in terms of additionality, temporality, and geographical location. Stemming from the delegated acts. When the direct connection is not an option, then of course the best is that 90% of the bidding zone, the electricity is produced from renewable electricity. In order to achieve that, there are certain plans in Estonia, and I think we are really smart with the strategy, trying to fulfill our electricity needs as soon as possible with renewable electricity. Now, the question about grid fees, I know that there are some discussions, but I don't know in detail whether or to what extent some exemptions, even to a certain part, are currently being considered for new electricity or existing large-scale electricity consumers. But definitely, as I mentioned, proactive industrial policy in my presentation, then this could be one of the elements that can be considered.
I don't have the answer for it, but I wanted to comment it a little bit because I think the grid connections and then the development of grid needs a whole another day. And then if we see the electro-intensive projects and the potential of coming them into Estonia, then if we take the grid map, then there is no destination for that project. Everything needs to be developed. And grid developments are with a really high price tag. I'm glad that Elering is looking into that way now, and then they're, I think, reforming their plans how they actually develop grid. I don't remember the exact details what was the plan, but they want to divide the price tag now with the client and with themselves as well, and then they would like to develop the grid already for the future where actually those industrial areas and industrial projects could land. I'm really glad about that plan because usually if there's a big project and then we try to find the location for it and trying to understand how much of the grid connections are possible, then usually the scenarios are like in millions, starting from, I don't know, couple and then reaching to like, I don't know, 20 or something like that. If we take the whole capex of that project, that's a really big percentage of that project. But one thing keeps me balanced is that Estonia is not the only country having the same situation. I think Lithuania has the same, Poland has the same. So the grid and then how actually those industrial projects and then big electro-intensive projects are being or will be operated is a challenge to overcome, definitely. But I still hope that it will get cheaper.
Thank you. So, Kaarel, very quick comment as we're already out of time.
So yeah, this is a very complex question actually, because on one hand, Joonas wants to bring investments to Estonia, then of course grid fees have to be competitive. On the other hand, when we are building out the renewable energy, then we need huge investments, new investments to grid. That's clear as well. When we want to make Estonian network more weatherproof, then we need investments. We don't like it at all when there's a, I don't know, windier day and tens of thousands of households and businesses without electricity. We don't like it, and we have to invest. And how can the distribution system operator or the network company invest? It comes from the tariff. So that's how it is. But when I put now the hat of the hydrogen developer, then of course the grid fees have to be low.
Thank you, Kaarel. So that's the end of the panel. We will have a short break. We'll be back in 15 minutes. That's 11:53. I will be out with you, helping you to arrive to the room at the right time. So small break now. Cheers.
So I'm inviting everyone to please take your seat. We're ready for the second half of the day. So we still have the Menti here. Steven will say a few words about it during his presentation, but if you haven't used the chance to say a few words about what the hydrogen economy might help us with, then please use this QR code or go to menti.com and use the code 5580-7530. But now, as the next presenter, we have with us gas grid, and I'm inviting Elina here to give us a presentation about that. So the green one is forward, the red one is back, and there you are. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and nice to meet you all. So I'm bringing some greetings from Finland, and I will be presenting in general how the hydrogen economy development is going on in Finland and how we see the role of infrastructure there. And then I will also describe you how we are approaching this hydrogen network development in Finland in practice. First, some words about gas grid. So we are a state-owned company. We work as the transmission system operator with system responsibility for gas transmission in Finland. And we want to be part of developing the sustainable and carbon neutral energy system of the future. And for this, our vision is that gases enable a carbon neutral society, and we provide a foundation or platform for it. Today, it's much relying on methane transmission that will stay in the system, but in the future, it will be also heavily relying on renewable hydrogen. And for this development, we have a task given by the Finnish government to promote the development of the national hydrogen infrastructure, international infrastructure cooperation, and the hydrogen market in the Baltic Sea region, and that should happen as soon as possible. That's also in Europe, and hydrogen has a key role in the European energy transition. Europe has quite ambitious target to be carbon neutral by 2050. And how I see it is that we need all the possible solutions for that. So we cannot pick up one or two single solutions, but we really need to use the whole palette of options. And clean hydrogen is really the one central solution here in the overall palette. And we already heard about the REPowerEU hydrogen target, so producing domestically 10 million tons of hydrogen per year and importing another 10 million tons. And this plan together creates quite huge hydrogen market in Europe, so around 670 terawatt hours. It's an ambitious target, but for example, the developing regulation shows that there is really a willpower to make this happen. And Finnish government has said that Finland has the possibility to produce 10% of this European production. And we also have the willpower to make this happen in Finland. Here you can see that at the moment there are worth 260 billion euros of green transition projects in the pipeline. And actually these numbers saw an increase of over 30% during the past year. Hydrogen projects represent 20 billion euros of this total amount, and they saw even bigger increase of almost fivefold increase during the past year. And these hydrogen projects are quite much relying on the increase in renewable electricity production in Finland. We could even talk about the wind power boom in Finland. Our current electricity mix is already quite nicely supporting the future development of the hydrogen economy. We have a lot of carbon neutral and renewable based production there. And our TSO for electricity, Fingrid, has announced that there is 340 gigawatts of grid connection inquiries of renewable power at the moment. So the pipeline is quite large. And if we look on the right-hand side figure, which shows the wind power development forecast by Fingrid until 2030, we can see that in 2030, the estimate for the electricity production is around 75 terawatt hours. And if we compare it to the Finnish power consumption in 2021, we can show that it's almost as much. So wind power in Finland really provides a good opportunity, and actually eventually it will likely become the largest producer of electricity in Finland. Well, as said, wind power is providing quite a good starting point for investments and hydrogen economy in Finland, but then there are also good other competitive advantages. We have, for example, solar power potential. There is a lot of biogenic CO2 resources available. We have good availability of land and fresh water. Then we also have a strong electricity infrastructure and well-functioning electricity markets around it. But then if we look the resources on the map, we can actually see that the announced wind power projects are mainly concentrated on the western part of Finland, on the coastal area. But then the electricity consumption centers and the biogenic resources are actually in the southern part of Finland. So this means that something needs to move in order to harness the wind power potential. And Fingrid is also reinforcing the electricity transmission, especially on the north-south direction of Finland. But we are talking about huge amounts of electricity that needs to be transmitted. So it's not like either or question what we should be transmitting, hydrogen or electricity, but actually we need the infrastructure for both of these. And this was also a conclusion from a joint study by Fingrid and Gasgrid last year. And maybe it's notable that it's quite unique in Finland how TSOs, so gas and electricity TSOs, are collaborating to really design an efficient energy system together. And well, then when we have the hydrogen and CO2 together, we can further refine high added value products, which we see as a good export industry opportunity for Finland. But as said, the hydrogen potential is quite huge. So we foresee that there is enough both hydrogen and the added value products to be exported from Finland. So we also need the cross-border hydrogen pipeline infrastructure. Well, how much do we then have hydrogen available? We asked that from the Finnish industry actors via an industrial market survey last year. The survey is actually still open and we are collecting more fresh data all the time. But these are numbers from the end of the last year, preliminary connection inquiries to the hydrogen network. There, the industrial actors indicated that they would like to connect to the hydrogen network more than 80 terawatt hours per year hydrogen production. This is a number for the early 2030. And as I said before, it's said that in Finland there is potential to produce 10% of the REPowerEU hydrogen production target. But this number is actually already more than double of that, so over 20%. So the potential really is huge. Then the hydrogen consumption number is over 20 terawatt hours. I think it shows that there is still room for new investments, but also for the export potential. This figure from the Hydrogen Europe shows that Finland has potential to produce low carbon or low cost hydrogen in the European scale, but we need some enabling factors for that, and we see that the transmission pipeline infrastructure is one of the key enabling factors. So with the infrastructure, we can connect the hydrogen producers and consumers physically, but also market-wise. So if we have an open market for hydrogen, that also allows competition in the infrastructure. Then we can see the hydrogen network also bringing some benefits in terms of efficiency of energy transmission and also in terms of risk mitigation. So, for example, when one is upscaling own business, there is no need for investment in small-scale local hydrogen storage, but one can utilize the storage potential in the infrastructure itself. Then the infrastructure is also bringing some flexibility benefits. For example, the hydrogen producers can produce the hydrogen from the electricity according to own business logic, for example, following the electricity prices. But at the same time, thanks to the infrastructure, we can deliver hydrogen to the consumers according to their demand profiles. Then if we look into the Finnish national hydrogen network, we are developing it through 3 large-scale infrastructure projects. I think you are familiar with these names already, but we have the Nordic hydrogen route that is surrounding the Botnian Bay and connecting Finnish and Swedish markets. Then we have the Baltic Sea Hydrogen Collector, that's the offshore pipeline project. And last but not least, we have the Nordic-Baltic Hydrogen Corridor, which is mainly of interest today in these discussions. And Finland is developing their own national network within these projects, but then we, as well as the other partner countries, but then we have the joint projects as cross-border collaboration, where we really need strong collaboration between the countries. And we are very happy that this year we received the PCI, so a project of common interest status for all of these 3 projects. And it's quite a nice signal that that these projects are seen as important parts of achieving the Europe's energy and climate policy goals. And also this status now provides quite a nice position to really advance and develop these projects further. These 3 projects might look like simple pipelines on the map, but actually they include development on quite multiple levels at the same time. So as a part of these national projects, we can have point-to-point pipelines as customer projects, and these point-to-point pipes can be later on connected to the national infrastructure. Then we have regional development, for example, as hydrogen valleys, like the Baltic Sea H2 hydrogen valley. Then we, of course, have this national hydrogen network, which will then connect to the cross-border infrastructure to form the Baltic Sea region and also European-wide infrastructure. So it's quite a puzzle, one could say, how we combine these different levels of the infrastructure development. And at GasGrid, we see that in order to tackle this puzzle and solve it, we really need collaboration. We need collaboration with regions, and we need collaboration with industry. And in this development, GasGrid actually has quite many roles. So we are not just an infrastructure developer, but we also need to engage different stakeholders. We need to be part of the Hydrogen Valley development, and also part of creating the market and the market model. So in order to bring this topic forward on regional level, we have launched a GasGrid-driven regional development model. And in this model, the aim is to really bring the regions and the regional stakeholders, the regional strengths and demands in the central position. And the ultimate goal here is that we can achieve in these regions the construction readiness at the same time to form the national infrastructure. So we want to develop these regional hydrogen economies and the national network in parallel. And there are different ways to do that. These are examples of kind of modules, how we approach this regional development. So first of all, we have made this market survey, which is still open, which I mentioned already before. And this was targeted for the industrial actors and project developers. And here the real goal was to kind of get an overview and understanding how the industrial actors and project developers see the demand for the transmission and storage infrastructure, and how they see that it should develop both temporally and spatially in the future. Then we are having structured discussions with municipal and industrial actors, for example, to gain feedback on our preliminary routing plans. And we are actually at the moment in the process of going through these discussions with municipalities and industrial actors. And at the same time, we can also validate the market survey results. Then, as as a newest thing, we have launched technical and market forums. The first one will actually take place in June. And these are open forums for our stakeholders to discuss any open topics related to development of the hydrogen economy and the infrastructure in Finland. We can discuss, for example, guarantees of origins, certification, hydrogen quality, gas package, and so on. And the idea with these forums is really to promote the investments and streamline the project development. And this is not only from the infrastructure point of view, but having the view on the whole value chain and investments along it. Here is provided a flavor of our market survey results. So here you can see some aggregated, regionally aggregated hydrogen production and consumption results, and these are numbers for the early 2030. And based on these results, like where the hydrogen production and consumption are foreseen to take place, and many other data and market consultation, we have been able to provide the first preliminary alternative routing plans for Finland. So this is the kind of first stage of the pipeline investments. And as said, now we are in the process of gaining feedback from the municipalities and hydrogen producers and consumers, how these plans look for them and what we should further take into account. But what's really the key in this development is the stakeholder engagement and making this to happen together so that we can really respond to the demand of the hydrogen producers and consumers when developing the infrastructure. Then here is the timeline for our national hydrogen network development. I'm not going into the details of this, but what I wanted to highlight that often when we talk about the hydrogen network development, we are actually talking about the concrete issues like putting the steel really under the ground. And that timeline is shown on the bottom part of on the upper part of the figure. But then what's quite often less discussed is actually the market creation for hydrogen and the associated market model creation. So that's happening at the same time in parallel, and it's really equally important than the actual infrastructure development. So these are really going hand in hand. And to conclude, our key message is that Finland and the Baltic Sea region really have a strong starting point and position to play a key role in the European hydrogen economy. And this requires the infrastructure, the cross-border infrastructure. And for this, we really need collaboration. This collaboration is needed across the value chains, across the different sectors, and across the country borders. Thank you.
Thank you, Elina. We will have the chance to ask questions from you a little bit later during the panel session. So next up, I would invite here Vytautas from Amber Creek. Please come forward and tell us what's happening in Lithuania, so from the Amber Creek perspective. So here's the forward, and here's the back if you need. The floor is yours.
So thank you very much for invitation to this house where lots of important decisions are taken in Estonia. And what regards hydrogen, it's not national thing in this region. It's a regional. And then this cooperation, exchange, what is happening in each of the countries is vital, basically, for facilitating this development, or even for enabling at some point of time, as without regional cooperation, it might take much longer for us to build something. A few words about Amber Grid. So we are currently a gas network operator, and main activity is to transport natural gas via Lithuania, mostly cross-border flows and also covering domestic demand. In addition to that, we are national registry for guarantees of origin for renewable gases. Right now we issue for biomethane, but in future should be also for synthetic methane and hydrogen as well. And few years ago, we have been tasked by our main shareholder, so the State Ministry of Energy, to do the work on the hydrogen network development, both looking at what the pipelines might be needed in the future and also facilitate the discussions and overall value chain build-up, which is really with plenty of uncertainty around. And the overall sector of this hydrogen and e-fuels is very broad one, but here I will concentrate on the logistic solution of transportation by pipelines. And here are the goals which are state declared. And in the morning, Dovydas presented basically the same figures as part of the draft National Energy Independence Strategy, although they're already included in approved document. So quite recently, a few weeks ago, National Hydrogen Sector Development Roadmap was approved in Lithuania. It was really a long journey to have it. And it took more than 2 years from initial draft until this stage. Further will be the approval of concrete implementation plan with responsible parties and concrete measures. And here we see the general goals for hydrogen. So for 2030, it's foreseen that the production of hydrogen should be of more than 4 terawatt hours per year. Going to 2050, it's sixfold, basically, 24. And if we look at the numbers from electricity point of view, so as it was in some previous slides today in Lithuania, the overall consumption of electricity is now 12.6 terawatt hours. I saw that number. So to produce 4 terawatt hours of hydrogen, it requires around 6 terawatt hours of electricity. So almost half of what is produced right now, consumed right now in Lithuania. It will add up on top because of needs of hydrogen sector. So that's a goal, and partially it is of decarbonization of our consumption of energy in other sectors than electricity, but also it's connected to the huge surge of renewables in Lithuania. Wind and solar is really soaring, and there is lots of plans on that. And the overall goal on national level is basically to base overall economy on renewable electricity, which would be used in pure form or transformed into other forms of energy. So how we approach the development of the grid to transport that hydrogen or part of that hydrogen, because some might be off-network sites. So we have a big project on regional scale, so this Nordic Baltic Hydrogen Corridor, together with the partners starting from Finland, going to the Germany, to have this vertical line basically going through Lithuania with some stop on the seashore. In addition to that, we have to look where the connection should be made in Lithuania, and then when and how some pieces of pipeline should be developed. And for that, this year, we we have kind of a project to piggyback on gas network 10-year planning cycle, and together with the gas network 10-year development plan to produce 10-year hydrogen network development plan. And for that, in February, we did we started a stakeholder survey, which followed with a number of interviews with potential developers of hydrogen. Not everyone which we expect to be working in hydrogen sector yet participated actively, because still they do not have a decision made on certain things to disclose and so on. So this survey for the future also, and the context and this network plan will be open, and similar like in gas grid, it will be ongoing cycle to update and to exchange the views with the potential investors to look for the best decision. However, for this kickstart, so we did a survey and interviews. Right now we are working with our power TSO, Litgrid, to have a common view on what might be a good locations for electrolyzers to be installed, both from power grid perspective and gas grid. And we expect at the end of this month, or beginning of next, to have a public consultation where we really welcome interest expressed and then or comments provided for the initial view from our side. And then in mid of the summer, it should go on the table of national regulator to review and present basically their comments and to approve it. Final communication in autumn, and then it will be ongoing process really to look how eventually it should be developed. Here are the results of this hydrogen market survey, and 15 potential producers have participated. Out of those, 7 are also consumption sites, and in hydrogen, basically, most of the infrastructure pieces will be of both production nature and consumption, because lots of consumers of hydrogen, they might have some electrolyzers installed. Also, e-fuels producers, so those new consumers, they also consumers, but they will be produce, methanol or synthetic methane. So they might produce hydrogen and inject into the grid, but they also might not produce hydrogen and take from the grid hydrogen to get these synthetic fuels. And they might not produce hydrogen at that time because they will provide services for power TSO, flexibility needs also. That's a very important part of overall framework of what are the benefits of hydrogen production. And the earliest of the projects in operation could be at 2027. In optimistic case, I would say, but in this decade, surely. And then the main uses of hydrogen in Lithuania, it's at our existing plants of fertilizer production and refinery. Then for production of green fuels, mainly methanol, there are a few projects in place where a certain preparation phase is ongoing. And pretty small one, but planned, is the use in transport. Yet not on a high level, as also we do not have a big marine sector where hydrogen might play a bigger role than in road transport. Looking from point of the figures, so total hydrogen production in this non-binding survey already in 2030, it could be close to 10 terawatt hours and increasing to 25 in after decade. So in comparison with these goals, national goals, so it's more than couple times more than planned. So, but still, it's non-binding, and for sure, not all projects will be implemented. Consumption around 7 or 8, so mostly expected or declared in the survey by the existing users, and some exports foreseen, and quite a big increase of exports in 2040 in the survey. However, if we look at overall information around, and here it is the map of work in progress. So it's something in preparation for this public consultation. Changes still expected. However, the basics is here, and we identified 2 regions where hydrogen would be produced and consumed. One is in northwestern part of Lithuania, which is basically future powerhouse of Lithuania because of landing offshore wind connections, also lots of renewable wind parks in place. And main production capacity most probably will be there as well. Then in central part, well, there is a main consumer. So it's a star in the center of Lithuania, fertilizer production plant. And also Ignitis mentioned today's site, so it's not far away. The producers are not indicated on this map because most of them didn't want to disclose the concrete locations which are not secured in full. However, still there should be a certain level of production in this central region. And when we looked at the demand levels, we expect even more than it will has been declared in the survey, and less for exports, because some decisions are pending, but there will be inevitable case for our biggest consumers to decarbonize, and some other business cases for demand expected in Lithuania. In this map, what is important, apart from this dashed line where initial hydrogen network could be in place, there are yellow corridors with lots of circled places where electricity grid and certain substations will be in place. So for the developers, it will be really relevant to see where there could be both grids available. For both operators also, it will be relevant to have the feedback from potential developers, which locations are the best, and then to map and see more concretely how these locations could be set in place. So that's work in progress, and in a few weeks' time we will have it announced publicly with more concrete data. And looking ahead also, what the obstacles we see and the most challenging areas and then potential solutions, and which are different from developing other energy infrastructure. So we identified for us few key ones, and one is that this infrastructure will be definitely very expensive at the beginning, and we will have to build quite early in order to kickstart all the hydrogen economy, and not only hydrogen. It's also biogenic CO2 as a feedstock for e-fuels, and then the transport sector decarbonization and so on. So there will be very high costs with the capacity build for a few decades ahead to have cheap ramping up. However, no yet cash flows. So for that, it's really relevant to have initially, as it was for many of other renewables development, co-financing on EU and national level. In addition to that, regulatory framework providing a certain level of security that really in these decades to come we will have the payback of our investments. And initially we will have to cap the tariffs of transportation. It will not be cost-based as for gas, because it would end up in very, very high tariffs, which would not facilitate the further development. So that's one tricky area to solve and to structure this financing part and the tariffication. Other one is that, also from regional perspective, not only national, in each of the countries around, there should be a very clear policy goals that, okay, the hydrogen is a part of the picture. In Lithuania, we have very strong political focus on hydrogen, and in these documents as national strategy and hydrogen roadmap, it's very clearly stated, it should be part of our solution in the future. However, not in every country the same, and there should be a coordination between those. So policy goals and then coordination of those will be vital. Legislative process, so the rules to play, they should be in place eventually, that the local institutions would know how to do that, and everyone else in the process. And close cooperation between various stakeholders, so any entity in this value chain should discuss with others around how to do this, because it's new thing. And the third one, which is unusually very important, is the public acceptance. And hydrogen is something which is not common for our people. So in Lithuania, we had a case already that there was a plan for methanol plant to be in place. And it started environmental impact assessment and had to cancel it in one of the locations because of local communities resisted so much. As hydrogen is something from, school days similar to hydrogen bomb, something nuclear and something really explosive and something really dangerous and something really poisonous. And there are lots of myths here. So it's really important to educate the society, to work. It should be part of each of the projects related to hydrogen, either production, transportation, or use. People around and both communities and the partners, they should know that eventually it's a clean solution and also bringing high value added and relevant both locally and nationally. So that's initial picture of the work on hydrogen in Lithuania, and we really look forward to work with the Estonian and other counterparties in the region to have this anchor project, Nordic Baltic Hydrogen Corridor, which will allow to further expand in each of the countries, both renewables in power sector and further conversion to hydrogen and e-fuels. And here is email, hydrogen@ambergrid.lt. So anyone who is interested to do any project in Lithuania also could approach us via this one. And we will look forward to work together.
Thank you, Vytautas. Please. So next up we have Sven from Estonian Hydrogen Cluster, and he will tell us a little bit about the infrastructure design. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sven, and thank you to all the presenters, and thank you to all in the room as well. To start off, we'll just have a look at the results of the Menti, and thanks everyone for contributing here, and we'll comment on some of these which are more prevalent. What sticks out to me, if I look at this, is decarbonisation. The American spelling and the English spelling combined, I think, would be the biggest word on the board. And I agree with that. It's a tool that we can use to achieve all of our decarbonisation goals that we're working towards and that we need to get to. But also security and energy security in there as well. Being located where we are in the world, it's a very crucial thing that we achieve that, and then we diversify the energy system that we have, so we don't have reliance on specific regions or specific technologies, but we can cater to our needs through what we can do ourselves. But let me first introduce myself if some of you don't know me. I'm Stephen Sepp. I'm the development lead for the Estonian Hydrogen Cluster. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about future hydrogen infrastructure design. But firstly, just to comment on what's been discussed here today, I'm very glad that we can get in a room and discuss renewables with hydrogen and not just hydrogen on its own. Decarbonisation is a tough subject, and we need to leverage all of the tools that we have at our disposal to reach those objectives. So hydrogen really, for me, acts as an enabler for the natural resources that we have in the form of renewables that we need to be able to utilise to get to these goals. So it's not just hydrogen on its own, or onshore wind, or solar, or offshore wind, or all forms of storage. It's all of those things together, and that's how hydrogen can help in this picture. During the work that we have done as part of the Baltic Sea H2 project with our partners from 9 countries across the Baltic Sea region, we mapped some of the drivers behind the growth of the green hydrogen industry in each of the countries and collated some of the results there. And the first one that sticks out is the huge potential of renewables. That came out as the #1 result, and we've heard that in almost all of the speakers today, and rightly so. Whether that's what we're doing already in onshore wind and solar in a lot of the countries, that's great, but a lot of the potential that we had feedback from is the potential of offshore wind in the Baltic Sea, given the underutilisation and underdevelopment of that sector. Some of the other prevalent results that came back are the drivers that come from either a legislative point of view through regulation or through funding that comes about and to drive the market. And we will go through some of the examples in this as well. On the other side, we also reviewed some of the barriers. And in context of what we're talking about today, hydrogen infrastructure, or the lack of hydrogen infrastructure, came out as one of the top results. Now, of course, you can't have hydrogen infrastructure without a hydrogen market. That's fairly obvious. But that's where we have to work with industry and the private and public sector to develop what that needs to be so that it no longer is a barrier but is an opportunity. And some of the other top barriers there, I think they're all overcomable. So the cost of green hydrogen. We know that's probably the #1 limitation in terms of what would limit the use of green hydrogen if it was available, was the cost. And it's directly related to the cost of renewables, and we'll talk about that as well. But again, for me, this is a barrier that we will overcome. Limited offtake, again, related to the same point. Once cheap green hydrogen becomes available, offtake will lap that up in terms of replacing existing fossil solutions or creating new value in industry through new developments. And some of the other processes, like permitting processes, which are slow in some of the countries, but I think will be accelerating as we go through these pilot projects, some of which have been discussed today as well. As we've talked about today, a lot of the input for the cost of green hydrogen comes from the cost of energy, and it's a key component in deciding what the cost is to the end consumer. But just to take a step back in terms of where we think this will go, electricity is one, but the natural progression of hydrogen production will drive prices down eventually anyway. We've got a couple of technology providers in the room. I know we've got Stargate, we've got Power Up, we've got other technology providers in Estonia innovating and developing technologies to increase efficiency, to drive down costs. This will be a key element to driving down the cost of green hydrogen. We will have economies of scale once we reach these gigawatt scale giga projects, that the capex of which will go into the billions of euros, and the general progression of the market anyway. Because if we cast our minds back 20 years or so, solar and onshore wind were also very expensive. And for market detractors, for fossil fuel promoters, it was very easy to say, well, solar will never happen. It's too expensive. It's much easier just to get the power from my coal. And we're in the same position now with hydrogen. It will go down, it will move in the right direction. But when it comes back to the price of energy, we've seen in recent years high costs in energy, probably starting with the post-COVID pickup in demand, and then the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and the limitation of resources, which in some regions caused prices to skyrocket, and really had an impact on heavy industry and consumers. On the map here, we've shown what the prices in the region were in 2023 as an average, and what they were in April 2024 as well, because it was a somewhat strange month in terms of more negative price occurrences than what we've been used to in the last couple of years. We had several days which had several hours of negative pricing, which is good for a consumer who's on a tariff that will benefit from this, but it's not so good for electricity producers that need to secure their price. This trend will be exacerbated in the coming years. We can see the pipelines in gigawatts and terawatts of renewables coming onto the system, and all of the wind and all of the solar that will be generating at the same time, cannibalizing that price. Now there are mechanisms around to protect from that. Unfortunately, in the Baltics, we struggle with an underdeveloped PPA market, and we need mechanisms like the aforementioned CFD by the Climate Ministry to mitigate some of the impact of that. But the come down in the price and the cannibalization effect and the prevalence of negative pricing creates opportunities to produce grey hydrogen in the region. And whether the business models already exist or are under development, it's the direction that it's moving towards. The map looks very funny on my screen, as it does on there. It doesn't have country outlines for some reason, or it's very faint. But it's a map that was put together by a partner in the Baltic CH2 project, VCT, also mentioned today by one of the speakers, where they mapped some of the announced hydrogen projects across the Baltic Sea region. You can see there's lots, whether they're in the early stages of concept or they're nearing commissioning. They are happening on varying scales, mostly small scale for now, understandably, but some examples of hydrogen projects in the region. We've had the Estonian Environmental Investment Centre provide support for 5 or 4+1 projects in Estonia. I'm very much looking forward to the first one of these coming online by the end of the year, which is just down the road, and is the Utilitas project that Rene talked about, which is utilizing a Stargate electrolyzer and Alexela fuel stations. So really utilizing the Estonian value chain in all of that project. But we've got other projects coming through by the end of next year, whether that's the Utilitas extension of the VOW project, or Eesti Energia's project, Derivaat NH3, or the Port of Tallinn project as well. But then we have quite a large-scale project in Finland due to commission, which is a 20 megawatt green hydrogen plant by P2X, and that will be commissioning later on this year. Helen have also reached a financial investment decision for their 3 megawatt green hydrogen plant in Helsinki, and it's a real shame that they couldn't be here today, but Power2X have announced plans for a large-scale green methanol plant near Pärnu, which has a planned capacity of 500,000 tons of green methanol production. And as Sven mentioned earlier, the European Hydrogen Bank pilot auction concluded in the last couple of weeks, and seven projects received support. And as Kaarel said, the support was between 35 and 48 cents per kilogram of green hydrogen, which is, absurd. I don't know how those projects are going to deliver, but they've got off-takers willing to pay that price. A lot of those are utilizing the wind and solar potential in Spain and Portugal, but there's also a project from Finland and Norway in that as well. But we'll be looking forward to the second auction by the end of this year, hopefully with a bigger budget and maybe some more representative pricing as a result. I won't stop on this at all, because both Elina and Vytautas already covered this, but it's great to see the 3 hydrogen backbone projects in this region that have received PCI status, which is needed to enable all of this to work. And coming back to Estonia before I wrap up, because I appreciate we're a bit over time, we've got wind projects, offshore wind projects, taking place in Estonia, and there's 3 of them in the so-called phase 1 of development, which are more advanced, and that's we've heard from one of them, from Rene, the Saare-Liivi project from Utilitas, Enefit's project Liivi, and the Saare Wind project, all of which are gigawatt plus scale offshore wind projects, which could look to produce electricity by the turn of the decade or in the early 2030s. Now, we'll ignore the point around grid constraints, so all of those can't come on in 2030 because the grid doesn't exist, but like was said earlier, that is a discussion for another day, because we could discuss that for a whole day, that's for sure. But it's just to give some context into size and scope. There's around just under 10 terawatt hours of demand in Estonia at the moment, and expectations are that that's going to be met by renewable energy, onshore wind and solar and biomass by 2030. There's also a pipeline of new investments that Joonas talked about, and that pipeline, I think, was 12 terawatt hours. So you can see some of that new offshore wind could cater to the investments that are looking to come to Estonia. But just from these 3 examples, that's ignoring Ignitis's plans in the Liivi region, that's ignoring Elwind, that's ignoring anything else that is being auctioned at the moment in terms of marine areas for future development. These 3 projects altogether would produce around 15 terawatt hours of electricity. And if we use a third of that to produce hydrogen, that's around 100,000 tons of hydrogen per year coming from the west of Estonia. Kaarel talked about Eesti Energia's plans, and if you add all of those figures up, by 2040 you get to a number which is pretty much 100,000 tons of green hydrogen demand in northeast Estonia. And I really like Kaarel's point, and I'm going to repeat it. Somehow you need to connect the pipeline going through Estonia as part of the Nordic-Baltic corridor plans to the potential demand that's going to be arising in the northeast. Now, just to say, these are just some examples, some scope for the offshore wind projects, and just the Eesti Energia example. As we saw, there's lots of other hydrogen projects as well, but this is just to prove the point of how important forward planning of national infrastructure is, and how that's needed, and how we need to have a conversation with the private and the public sector and all of these projects into providing the best solution, whether that's in the context of the Nordic-Baltic 2030 plans, 2040 plans, or whether that's business-to-business pipelines or regional pipeline developments like Elina described. All of those need to be considered when we're planning this network. And just final thoughts, and that's echoing what's already been said today. Collaboration is key here, whether we're collaborating across industry or collaborating geographically, because without that, we won't be integrating this hydrogen economy that we're looking to develop to support our decarbonisation goals.
Thank you, Steven. So let's continue with the panel. I would ask the panelists Elina, Vytautas, Steven as well, and also Siim to come on stage. And I will take one chair from here to have a good number of seats for us. And also let's see if we can find the microphones faster this time. So they seem to work. So thank you for all for the great presentation. The only person who really hasn't had a chance to talk about their plans is Siim here. So as a first instance, I would turn to you and ask you that, seeing the plans Gasgrid has and what Ambergrid has, would you be willing to open up a little bit about the Elering plans and how to approach the hydrogen corridor question, and do you also plan some type of public and market consultation, or what is your position here in this regard?
Yes, hello, I am Siim Iimre from Elering. Maybe I will start from a bit further on. Elering has been looking into and working on hydrogen since 2021, and we've done it not because somebody asked us to, but we did it because we saw great value in hydrogen in Estonia. First of all, in the integrated energy system, where hydrogen could provide different benefits, for example, the electricity system, heating system, and so on, if the goal is a carbon-neutral energy system. And this view has been reinforced after the Estonian 2030 100% renewable electricity goal, and seeing the Estonian renewable electricity potential. Yeah, as we've been part since 2021 in the European Hydrogen Backbone, from there this Nordic-Baltic Hydrogen Corridor project has basically grown out, which we are happily cooperating with Ambergrid, Gasgrid, and the other regional TSOs here. And we are currently running this feasibility study, or pre-feasibility study there. And yeah, in there we basically assess what could be the possible volumes, what could be the cost of the infrastructure, where should be located, and so on. And for the Estonian perspective, we're also reassessing the route in Estonia to be more closer to the consumers and the producers as well.
Okay, so you're already engaged with the market participants for
yes,
that
yes,
part as well.
We've taken their input into consideration and already working on it.
Excellent. Just as you already have the hot seat, sorry about that, I was wondering if I can ask you also the question that came up during the last panel, and that's the question whether it would be potentially possible to do something about the create costs for hydrogen production. So I know that, if I'm not mistaken, something is being discussed for the battery storage. So could a similar view where
I think in the battery storage, it's been thought that whether a battery factory should pay the grid fees twice, when they store and when they sell it back to the grid. So could a similar view be considered for hydrogen, where there would be some type of reduction of grid connection if you produce hydrogen, which technically would also be storage of energy from the electricity production?
I think you're referring to the discussions going on the electricity tariffing in Estonia currently. And yeah, this could be one option to also consider what to do about hydrogen electrolyzer tariffing. But Elering, for example, already has a tariff package that doesn't include energy costs, only fixed fee based on the electricity capacity that the consumer needs. So maybe this is something that the hydrogen producers could look into. Maybe it helps.
Thank you, Siim. Going forward to Elina and Vytautas, so if you look at the infrastructure development between our countries, and is there anything that you could use from Estonia, and what type of contacts, information you would be looking for, if any, at this stage? So maybe we can start with Elina, if you would be willing.
Yeah, thanks. To me, it seems that there is quite a similar approach already going on in Estonia and also in Lithuania than in Finland. So we are having this kind of cross-border project, but then when that planning is going forward, the discussion in the different countries is moving more on the regional level. And that's really what we need in order to design an efficient national infrastructure. So maybe there is something we can replicate from country to country from these regional approaches, how to engage the stakeholders and how to also create the cross-border market. So it's not just the national markets, but the cross-border market.
Yes, thank you, Elina. Vytautas, do you have any comments on this?
It's about cooperation basically and coordination of decision making. Well, now we in this pre-feasibility study stage, we will analyze and we will present those results in each of our countries to decision makers. And then after, there should be a common action in coordinated way to implement that project, because we are dependent on each other, basically, on all this thing. So from Finland to Germany, along all this route, there should be a common vision of policymakers. So this building is really important. This and your government as well should agree with the governments around that, okay, they will support the concrete measures, how to close the financing structure, how to issue the permits will be different in each of the countries. However, it's important to do that in consistent way, so that really the project would be implemented in time at which it will be needed, and that it would also help for the things around. So also there should be a certain consistency. Each of the countries should do investigation, identify what they can get from this main pipeline, how it could help, and then to do also in consistent way a planning of certain measures, like state support for e-fuels production, for example, when it should be in place, or when it should be the place state support for electrolyzers and so on and so on. So everything it is connected. Hydrogen is only some interim stage between renewable electricity and the final usage, which is right now based on petroleum products in transport or natural gas in fertilizers and many other industries. And it should be substituted in addition to that. So, well, the overall, this project is a way for our economies to provide exports towards other EU countries of various products. Hydrogen at first, but also synthetic fuels. So it's not only the question of self-sufficiency and the decarbonization of our economies, but it's about having a stream of exports.
Yes, thank you, Vytautas. Following up your comment, I would give the mic to Steven to ask, how do you see Estonian role in that? So is it about the hydrogen production? Is it about additional derivatives? How do you see it currently?
It's a combination of all of those. We can see that our potential to produce electricity and produce hydrogen and or derivatives exceeds our current demand. So that's the first thing that's got to change, that we've got to use this energy more and better ourselves, whether that's new industry or the expansion of current industry. But we can also see that Central Europe is incredibly power hungry, and that won't change. And unlike us, some of those countries don't have access to the sea and have very limited land. So they can't produce enough energy, whether that's electricity, whether that's hydrogen, whether that's derivatives. They can't produce enough of those ourselves. In an ideal world, I'd like to see that we produce lots of electricity, we produce some hydrogen, we convert some of those to derivatives, and maximize the value within the country ourselves. But I think there's a lot of export there as well. One of the things that Vytautas mentioned, Elina mentioned, Siim, I'm sure if he presented, he would have mentioned the same thing, is how do we plan the infrastructure around not just hydrogen, but electricity in conjunction? Because one can't happen without the other. They need to be planned at the same time. So if we take an example of one of these offshore wind farms, they struggle with two main things really: how they can connect to the grid and who they're going to sell their power to. And the production of hydrogen and or derivatives helps to solve both of those problems. In an Estonian context, we can see that there's a CFD around the corner, but it's not big enough to support all of the projects that we want to bring through. There's not enough of a PPA market to secure all of those revenues for the electricity producers. So in my head, there's some kind of hybrid model that can exist with achieving the desired price through the CFD, through PPAs, and through a price that works for the producer of electricity and the producer of hydrogen or derivatives. That's a win-win for both parties. And obviously the benefits that you would get from the alleviation of grid constraint stress as a result. The less power that you need to put on the grid, the more projects that you can pull through from an electricity point of view.
Thank you, Steven. Do you have any questions? Oh yeah, I see already 2 hands. Perfect. Let's start with Kaarel.
Kaarel Kuusk from Eesti Energia. Question to gas system operators. As you're now finalizing those pre-feasibility studies, can you comment what is the capex cost for 1 kilometer hydrogen transmission pipeline, submarine and onshore? You can give a range if you don't want to give exact answer.
Maybe Vytautas will be able to comment, but at least I don't have any numbers now, and not exactly for this project, but where you can find kind of overall view is the European Hydrogen Backbone report. So I think the best public knowledge at the moment is in those reports. But maybe you want to comment.
So certain figures are discussed and yet not finalized even in that report, as we really have questions to consultants on some of these. And it's not only pipelines, it's also the compressing capacities, which, the compression needs are more intense for hydrogen than, for example, for natural gas. And that's important part of overall cost structure. And it depends on diameter. And so it's way more expensive than for natural gas or methane-based grid. So European hydrogen backbone, really, it's a good source that Elina mentioned to look for general level of the cost, and it could differ depending on concrete project somewhat, but not in times. So basically, again, if you really want some numbers, so very roughly, a few millions euros per kilometer. That's the number, but it depends on diameter and compression adds up somewhat on top. So it's an expensive thing. However, well, should be long-lasting. And if you build also pipeline for the whole region with lots of transit, increasing transit from the northern countries to the main EU, so eventually the loads should be pretty high as well.
Siim, do you want to add anything to that? Or?
Yeah, well, we've been talking even to these pipe suppliers. Then they basically say it's similar to natural gas, but since you would need a bigger pipeline and the compression ratios are different, so it's more compressive due to that.
Thank you. And there was another hand up somewhere. Yes.
Hello, I'm Liisi Voksep from PowerUp, and I asked already one representative as well, but have there been discussions or thoughts on reducing the building costs connecting together with Rail Baltica or some cooperation with them and developing? Because they would need the energy power and this as well. So while building the pipeline together with Rail Baltica and to divide the costs.
To my knowledge, Rail Baltic should be using the electric trains, but I think the idea would be using the same route.
Yes.
Okay.
Not exactly, no. The same route, but it's like there are other pacts as well. But as we are developing fuel cell, that they could use the electricity, but we would need the hydrogen for that. So for providing the fuel cells in there that use hydrogen as the instead of diesel, for example, then you need a pipeline. So it would be a really greener and version in that sense. So has there been a consideration of the cooperation together with Rail Baltica?
And I understand now that you mean stations where trains could be refueled by hydrogen.
This and in generic, it's like the power that doesn't come from the grid and at the moment comes from the diesel generator could come from hydrogen-powered electricity if there would be a pipeline. So has it been considered like that?
In the Estonian perspective, we haven't seriously considered putting the pipeline next to the rail in the whole stretch. Of course, it could cross or be close to the Rail Baltic in some cities and so on. So it could be interlinked by that way. I don't know. How about Lithuania that has Rail Baltic?
Actually, no, it was not considered, and yeah, mostly what was very general discussion raised that maybe this corridor could be used the same, but no, there is also a number of cons, not only pros but cons to that. So not at the moment. Maybe in the future there will be some discussion still with Baltic Rail Company.
So, as a next question, I would ask the panelists that what do you consider is the main characteristic that everyone should keep in mind when you're planning this huge infrastructure, and if you want this to be ready by 2030, should someone already be with the shovel. So Vytautas, maybe you can go first. So what is the sort of the main key characteristic to keep in mind when planning this infrastructure, and what could be the time that we can start talking about those infrastructure projects that will form hydrogen backbone? When could they start to be ready, or what's the estimate? So we're talking about 2030 in some of the vision documents. Is this realistic?
Early 2030. That should be the area from timing perspective. One concretely, so it's a big work together with other TSOs and policymakers to find a solution to implement. But yeah, that would be possible if there is a decision to go forward, not in 2030, but in early 2030s. So that's the timing. And regarding a concrete factor, what someone should think of. So I could not distinguish one. So you should talk with the other parties to discuss the overall business case and what do you need, what are your needs, and how it could be solved. Because now we are in some vacuum of the rules. There is no rules in any of the countries. The sector is not governed in any way. However, they will be created in a few years' time. So, and they should be steered towards catering a certain needs. And that could be a bit different in each of the countries. There will be, of course, EU-level legislation which will be passed very soon. Well, the final voting on EU Council should be this month, basically, and which will really set a general framework over development of hydrogen. However, yeah, on the details, each of the country will have to make their mind. So, talk to other people.
Thank you, Vytautas. So, Siim, are you more optimistic or more pessimistic about the timeline and the factors?
Well, I basically have similar thoughts as Vytautas. The speed probably will depend on the political backing in the region. How much support do our politicians give us? How much they could make the planning and I don't know, agreeing with each other. I mean, the member states quicker and so on. But of course, there's quite a lot of unknown since we are planning a massive infrastructure with a very big cost for a market that currently doesn't exist. So there is this regulation and quite a lot of open questions yet to be solved. But yeah, the political will is probably the main key.
Thank you, Siim. Elina?
Yeah, maybe I'm the optimistic one, but the 2030 is put on the papers, and that's where we are aiming at. And I showed you before the timeline for the national infrastructure development in Finland, and there we aim to final investment decisions by the end of 2026. So that timeline is pretty well aligned with the cross-border projects like the corridor. And then if we think about the kind of critical factors for this development and taking the big picture, the value chains in the hydrogen economy are quite long, and they also differ country by country according to hydrogen economy strategies. So what's quite critical is how we make these investments along the whole value chains move at the same time. So how can we enable that? And I think that as TSOs, we have quite critical role there to enable this, and taking the early enough approach for this hydrogen infrastructure development is one key thing to break this chicken-egg problem.
Thank you, Elina. We're out of time, so that was all from our panelists. Thank you very much. I think they deserve an applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me just put those here just in case. So as a quick wrap up, we're a little bit over time, but I just want to thank all the presenters, all the panelists for being here today. I think we had a very, very good day of discussions, as was already mentioned in the house where most important decisions are made in Estonia. So very thankful to Anneli for organizing this as well. And I think in a way, it's a good point to go forward from here. So we saw that there's a lot of potential when we're talking about developing renewable energy production in the Baltic State region. And we also understand that there are specific barriers. Then again, we see that some of the projects are already able to cross those barriers and go beyond these unknown factors that we are currently facing. So I'd say that looking back a year or two, I'd say hydrogen economy in the Baltic Sea region has taken a step forward. I'm hoping that I can say the same thing when we hopefully meet next year. And the same goes, of course, for the infrastructure development, because that's also a key part in this equation. So I want to thank you all, and looking forward to meeting you in other hydrogen events. Thank you.